you there?
Yeah, I'm here. It says it's preparing live stream.
Okay, I said got it.
Done redirecting to Facebook page. I think we're live. Hey, Ann.
Hi.
Um, well, welcome to Doc Talk Live. I am with Dr. Ann Conn. Um, Ann is a neurologist by training, and you do pain management. Is that correct?
Yes, I did the fellowship in interventional pain management, and that's what I spend my time doing in addition to some interventional headache medicine.
And are you located in New Orleans?
I'm actually in Covington, the suburbs of New Orleans.
Covington. Okay, so you're close
Mhm.
to New Orleans. And
Yes. Hmm.
um, so I'm just going to get right to it, Ann. This is a difficult topic, so I appreciate you taking the time. We put on the Doc Talk Live web page, the Facebook page, that you're writing a memoir soon to be published called Lightning Twice, which is about uh, it's about suicide and it's about your children's suicide. So thank you for speaking about this incredibly difficult topic. It's difficult for me to even talk to you about it
Yes.
because it's so hard being a parent and raising children and even being a physician and one of the reasons I do what I do is I don't like to deal with death and dying. I really don't take care of
Mhm.
patients that are going to die, really. And so that's even a hard topic. But then you take on this mental health situation on top of it. So thank you for taking the time. And without
Mhm.
asking a question, I'm just going to give you the floor and let you sort of lead us into what we should discuss.
Yes, well, your introduction is spot on. It's hard for people to even say the word suicide. And for somebody like myself, and for everybody really, it's so important to speak about mental health problems because of the stigma. The stigma still cripples treatment for mental health conditions. And people that have lost loved ones by suicide also feel that their grieving can be affected by the stigma. So thank you for having me and giving me the opportunity to speak. And yes, we need to try to reduce stigma. And one way to reduce it is by truth telling and just speaking the truth and trying to destigmatize everything about it. The word, because suicide is really common. Thank goodness it's less hidden now. I think that's one positive thing in the pandemic. People are speaking more freely about the mental health effects of the pandemic and mental health problems in general. So we're beginning to open the door to less stigma, and I'd like for that to continue. And yes, I share all your feelings. It's hard. It's hard to work, as a physician to take care of people that are ill. It was incredibly difficult as a parent to see both of my children um, in the prime of their life be struck by a terrible version of bipolar disorder where they lost touch with reality and began to hallucinate, called psychosis. And I guess that's the other big point that's not connected in the minds of the general public. People kill themselves because they have a mental illness. Okay, like 95% of people do that. And the other 5%, well, my psychiatrist friend says, who are they? And it's just extraordinary circumstances, like in war situations. But yes, there's a reason for this, and it's good if the public can connect those things and it can
So
help drive better treatments.
during my training, and I'll share this because I know you'll be able to relate. My my chairman of my rehab department um, at Emory in Atlanta, she had twins, and both of her children committed suicide, and it was
Wow.
devastating. It was devastating for her. It was devastating for everybody, and And
Yeah.
frankly, I'm not sure she ever really got through it.
Yeah.
So I know you can
Hmm.
relate, and I am curious about how you grieve, how you function, how do you move forward?
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for asking the question. Look, it's a mystery. What different people can endure and how it can be endured. Um, this type of grief is with myself and anybody like myself that's experienced severe grief. It's with us all the time. And I mean, of course, I've read a ton of grief books and now I have ample personal experience. And it's something that just we live with every day. It becomes so incorporated into my life. It is so incorporated into my life. And that's the way to live my life fully. My spiritual counselor said, now you live well in their honor. And that's how I try to do it. That's my intention, to live well in honor of my sons. And that helps set my course. I think for me, one way I've been able to tolerate this loss is my children were so terribly ill and had the best treatment there is before they died. So it was no mystery to me why they died. They were psychotic all the time. And so that's unusual because many suicides are just, it feels so out of the blue for the people that survived the person. Um, so that made my situation different. And I had what's probably called preparatory grief, that is called preparatory grief. And let me give an analogy for that. Say if somebody has a loved one that has had a cancer for a long time and they've had a lot of chemo and the chemo is not working and they've had multiple recurrences and now they're in terrible pain and there's no treatment options left, most people will start preparing. They have preparatory grief. They realize what's going to happen. Or say a family member that has dementia, there's grieving that happens before the death. And I would say I did experience preparatory grief because I understood how terribly ill they both were. Look, that doesn't mean it's easy. It's still incredibly difficult, but I'm just trying to give you examples of how I have personally tolerated that. And then I'll go one more step. I think after my first son died, I just started contemplating, and this is where being a doctor helped me. I had seen other families that had lost more than one member to, say, genetic breast cancer. When I did neurology, we had a Huntington's clinic. I had seen multiple family members die of Huntington's, Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. So I had actually seen families lose multiple family members, and that helped me because I felt less alone. I'm not the only human being that's had to tolerate something like this. And all that, it's just all these different pieces that I've tried to pull together to help me.
That
And I have good days and bad days, more good than bad.
that makes a lot of sense. I had one of my partners also commit suicide, and I don't think that there was any preparatory grief or
Yeah.
or enough warning signs to
Yeah.
prepare one. And that you're right. I guess it's more devastating if if you're blindsided by it.
Yeah. I'm going to make a request for change in language. So instead of committed suicide, we like to say died by suicide because committed by some people can be experienced as having an accusation. And so all through the press, there's been all this press education, that we would like those survivors and those of us affected and mental health professionals for people to say died by suicide and remodel
Please
that
repeat
talk,
that
please.
because I'm not sure I totally understand the language, and I think language is so important, especially when you're trying to
Mm-hmm.
affect change.
Yes. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to repeat it. And the request is to say somebody died by suicide, not somebody committed suicide.
And the problem
Because
with commit,
died by suicide, commit by some people is perceived as having an accusation embedded in it, that word. And I can understand how people perceive it that way. And it's widely perceived that way in the suicide loss survivor groups. And therefore, press sources and even people I know, I'll ask for that change in language to say died by suicide. And it's part of the psychology of trying to help destigmatize these illnesses and this type of loss.
Gotcha. Tell me about your memoir and how that started and what that signifies for you.
Yes. So, I've always dallied in writing, especially as a teenager and in my 20s. And I had imagined myself writing a book, but I had never, put the kind of energy in it takes. And I didn't have the motivation to do that. And I've journaled. And when my children were very sick, I definitely journaled, because the amount of energy and grief it takes to handle being with somebody very ill with anything is difficult. And it was helping me disperse some of that energy. But I guess after my second son died, I got the idea that I would try to write a book, and I didn't have any idea how to do that. So I've received different guidance. One of my husband's good friends, Sybil Moriel, wrote a memoir, and she was really my first helper. And a lady named June England started being my personal writing coach, because I've written scientific articles, and this is completely different. It's good. I think it's good to try something new and creative at midlife, and it really is a creative act. And so I've dedicated myself to trying to develop as a writer. And in that, the first thing I did was take a Harvard writing course for healthcare physicians. Then I went to Columbia narrative medicine courses. And actually, I took an extended course at Harvard called Medicine and Media. And these courses through Catapult, just trying to dedicate myself to developing as a writer and trying to be a writer worthy of the story I'm trying to tell. And actually, through some women physician writers, I was connected with Emily Rapp Black, who's a very well-known writer who has been my developmental editor for the last 2 years. And I'm getting close down to the end, and it's helped me immensely. So it's been a process. Basically, I've learned how to write the book while I'm writing the book. And it's kind of a melded memoir, because of course it's through the eyes of a brain scientist, a neurologist, and a mother, because that's who I am. And that's how I was seeing things. And so it's about our personal experience and what I was seeing and thinking, and, the story of my children, of course, through my eyes and through their personal letters and stuff like that they wrote to me.
I feel like there's a TED Talk in here.
Maybe. I've done drafts of TED Talks. Yes, I thought about that, and that's been suggested to me.
Yeah, that would be well, highly interesting to me, because well, I thought you were going to tell me about the memoir itself, but actually what is fascinating in your description is the process you went through just in order to convey whatever the message is. You follow me? So that process is even interesting. It's a whole topic in and of itself. So I know certainly that the memoir is about the death of your 2 children. Can you tell us a little bit more about the details of the book itself?
Right. So it starts, the timeline is when my oldest son, who died at 28 years old, first started having signs of having a mental health problem. And that was his freshman year at LSU. And that was just when Katrina hit. He went to LSU 2 weeks before Hurricane Katrina hit, which kind of confounded the way I was seeing things. And then it goes through, his illness. And, that's the thing about bipolar disorder. It can be so hard to diagnose, because it's truly a chameleon, and it looks different in each family member. And there are other members of the family that have bipolar disorder. So there is a family history. And so I have seen multiple cases from a very intimate lens, and they've each looked different. So yes, it goes on to the onset of the illness and my second son. And I flashed back to my son, Colin, who actually probably attempted with the illness as a preteen. And his case was classic and severe, where my other son, it was more slowly evolving. And it goes through that. And then the treatment decisions, all the studying, I'm learning about psychosis. And they went to the best hospitals there are in the world. McLean in Boston and Menninger's had very long stays, and all my interactions with the medical professionals there as a fellow medical professional. And, just through the whole course to their deaths, and it ends with a provisional response to their loss. That's how the book concludes.
A provisional response. And what is that?
Yeah, that's my initial spiritual and psychological response to what happened. So I would say, my response continues to evolve. Oh, and I think it will over my lifetime to what's happened. And so that's why I call that the provisional response. It was more like the initial response to, but it has set the course for what I'm doing now.
When your first son passed, in my very limited understanding, that put your other son at greater risk. Is that true?
Absolutely, it did. Yes, it's true that when a sibling dies, the other one has increased risk. And my other son was also at terrible risk because he too had psychotic bipolar disorder and was actually psychotic and hallucinating and in the hospital when Colin died by suicide. So yes, he was at terrible risk because of just the severity of his own illness and the fact that he lost his brother. And he was unresponsive to treatment, the best treatment there is, which they both were. So yeah, there were a lot of risk factors that came to fruition, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. How will people be able to find this book once it's published?
Yeah, so I haven't even tried to get an agent yet. I'm going to probably start trying to get an agent this summer, but I have a website that I'll be posting all that on.
What is your website? And I'm sure Christy will get that information up on my page, but what is your website?
It's AnnConnMD.com with no spaces, AnnConnMD.com. And Christy designed it for me beautifully and has done a lovely update that I'm very grateful for. She's really good at it.
So, and also I want to invite you anytime to use this platform. You don't need me. DocTalk Live is not about me. It's about information in a very conversational way. Ultimately, I would love to be able to have people interact in real time. So I'm not the interviewer. It's more organic than that. Kind of like a call-in radio show, if you will. But you're welcome anytime to use this platform if there's something that you'd like to say, and I'm happy to jump on with you if that's helpful.
Thank you so much for that offer. And yeah, this is a crucial area. And as you know, there's been several physicians, high-profile physicians, that have been lost to suicide during the pandemic. So this is an ongoing issue that a lot of us are working toward. I'm just one voice trying to destigmatize this, mental illness, suicide, and I'm trying to add my voice to those voices.
We have done shows. I'll just plant this seed with you with a nurse anesthetist in my hometown in Birmingham named Rodney Overstreet, and he started a website called Heal Our Healers, and it is specifically to help with it's I think the word he uses is compassion fatigue. And he is truly a healer. So I would invite you to get involved with Rodney as well, with Heal Our Healers. He's phenomenal. So Ann, I want to thank you. I'll let you get back to taking care of your patients, which we haven't even hit on, and I will mine. Thank you, Ann.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Thank you.